is special for that.
Well, Natalia Balbo has had a fairly consistent weekend here at Lonato, so should have a decent grid position for the final later. So we'll catch up with her in the International KZ2 Super Cup final race later. These drivers are trying to book themselves a decent place on the grid too. Artur Carbonell on pole position from Matti Kukowski. Harry Thompson in third position and Giuseppe Palomba on fourth from Danilo Albanese and Alexander Schmitz. And then Slavik Putyatin and Andreas Falk from Jacob Tallas and Sebastian Bellucin. Alexander Dahlberg and Giuseppe Fusco from Kasper Kalasma and Jesper Sjoberg. Then Giacomo Polini and Robin Glerum, Paavo Tonteri and Gilles Stadsbader from David Levinsky and Andrea Ceresoli, David Trevelov and Brandon Nilsson, Thomas Mischik and Roberto Cesari from Christopher Zani and Nicola Rossini, Lawrence Van Hoopen and Filippo Berto, Karl Lukaszewski and Yannick Yillis Bernhardt, Craig Tanich, Antonio Garay and Noam Abramczyk. So the 33 drivers in each grid, of course, trying to get themselves an interesting battle. There are 32 drivers in this in the previous heat, you'll have noticed, and there are 34 drivers in qualifying heat A versus B. So that's going to be the most populous heat grid of the entire weekend. But then, of course, the final will have 36 competitors in it, and with 99 drivers bidding for those 36 positions, and only one race left for each driver to do so, it's now or never for each of the competitors to book themselves a place on that grid. And they will never have worked harder than this to try and get them into that position. So it's going to be a fascinating battle. So let's see how it goes. Carbonell, Kukowski, Thompson, Palomba, Albanese, Schmitz, Putyatin, Falk, Tallas, Bellucin, Dahlberg, Fusco and Kalasma. The grid is about to get underway. Let's see who gets the best start. It's an absolute cracker from the 201 of Albanese, but was it a jump start? Because he launched away quicker than most. Either he timed it absolutely to perfection or it might have been a jump start. We'll have to double check later, but certainly, oh, two cuts off on the way to turn 4. Somehow keeping it out of the wall. That's one of the SRPs down at the back of the field. Please don't tell me it's David Trevelov. He's already had his fair share of bad luck this weekend with 2 DNFs over the course of yesterday. So this is going to be an absolutely heroic drive through from the front of the field as they coax their way through. And it is the CPB Sport of Artur Carbonell who leads the way at the moment. Matti Kukowski once again trying to keep himself in as high a position as possible. He was not expected to run as high in the races as he has been, but his performance in the wet qualifying session really has helped him out. Artur Carbonell in front of Giuseppe Palomba and Danilo Albanese from Putyatin, Kukowski, Schmitz, Thompson, Tallas, Dahlberg, Bellucin, Kalasma and Tonteri. Here's Kukowski trying to keep back. Alexander Schmitz is going to try and go right round the outside. What a move from Schmitz. Kukowski's held up and Thompson gets through as well. But that was incredible from Alexander Schmitz. An amazing overtake. Absolutely storms his way through around the outside of Matti Kukowski. Not going to wait around for him to block. He just storms across. Amazing from Alexander Schmitz. That is an incredible move on the second lap of a race with so much at stake. Absolutely formidable from the German. So now we've got the battle for Danilo Albanese trying to push his way forward as they come through on the far side. In through to the third corner. Is Albanese going to make his bid? Now look at that. Under investigation, Danilo Albanese. I did wonder if they would investigate it. That doesn't mean, of course, that he's going to get a penalty, but they're definitely looking into it. It's going to be tough to know. The trouble is, I couldn't see when the lights went out. They're behind me in that position, so I can only go over what's up the inside. What a launch from Palomba! And Palomba takes the lead from Carbonell. So Giuseppe Palomba trying to book himself a place on the front of the grid for the final itself. Giuseppe Palomba going full guns blazing. And Danilo Albanese is next. Now, we don't know if he's going to get a penalty. All we know at the moment is Danilo Albanese is under investigation for that launch off the line. If he does get a penalty, it's going to completely destroy his chances of a decent grid position for the final. But he can't think about that. He's got a launch on the inside of Carbonell, which he does, and goes into second place. Good move from Albanese. This is the problem. You can't afford to let these things get you down. You've just got to focus on your job in hand. So that's exactly what he's up to. Meanwhile, further back, we've got a nice duel developing for 5th place. Alexander Schmitz is being caught now by Harry Thompson in the Forza racing machine. And Harry Thompson, in his first ever FIA karting weekend as a gearbox driver. He's only been direct drive before this weekend. So this is a fascinating turn of events for Harry Thompson, and hopefully it's the start of something pretty special. It's been a long time since we've had a leading British driver in gearbox. He could well be the man to take that mantle. So out in front it's Palomba, second is Albanese, third is Carbonell, in front of his teammate Slavik Putyatin. And to be fair, Slavik Putyatin has done an amazing job this weekend as well. He's been one of the underdogs of the CPB Sports squad. He hasn't even been able to complete a full season thanks to the way that the travel restrictions have impeded some of his weekend. He's going to dive on the inside of Carbonell. Superb from Putyatin. The Ukrainian has been absolutely amazing. And so the Ukrainian gets through into 3rd position. That will help his chances of a decent grid slot. And of course, you're trying to get as much out of each heat as you possibly can. You accrue points based on where you finish in each of the heats. If you win the race, you have 0 points added to your tally. If you come second, you have 2. Third, you get 3. 4, you get 4th, and so on and so on. And then it's essentially a golf scorecard. Whoever has the fewest points are the ones that go through, and the 36 drivers with the least points accrued over the 5 heats that they do in the weekend, they are the ones that will get into the final grid. So you want as high a finishing position as possible, obviously, but that's in order to score as few points as possible. So Alexander Schmitz in 5th place is looking at 5 points added to his tally. Harry Thompson in 6th place is looking at having 6 points added to his tally. So it is a reverse point system. The drivers battle away. Palomba in front of Albanese, Putyatin, Carbonell. This is the battle further back. This is Jacob Talas about to get taken by Kukovski. Kukovski trying to hold his own. A great performance there from the young Praga driver. Oh, and there's a contact further back. We've got a kart spun in the hairpin up at turn 5. Driver tried to make the move on the inside line and it didn't work out, and he has spun the kart around, I'm afraid. Some great battles all the way through this field. It's hard to keep up with all of them, but we've got a kart on the hairpin at turn 5. They're trying to move it away, and that is the 171, I'm afraid. That is Christopher Zani. So a real shame for Chris Zani. He's out of the race for the BRM team. But Palomba is out in front. Albanese in 2nd place. 3rd is Putyatin. In 4th, it is Carbonell. And in 5th place, Schmitz ahead of Harry Thompson in P6. Oh, there's a driver on the straight with a problem. That's David Lewinsky. The Polish driver's got a problem. So David Lewinsky is going to have to pull the kart into the pits. And who's that? Who else is coming in? That's Jacob Talas. That is Jacob Talas out of the race. What a shame. And I think Talas... well, that's definitely mechanical related. So Jacob Talas out of the race, and I think David Lewinsky is going to join him. There he is. What a shame for Talas and Lewinsky. Mechanical problems letting them down in the final race of the weekend for them. And that means that neither driver is going to have a decent grid position for the final now. They might still make it in based on their performance earlier in the weekend, but that's really hampered their chances. So Palomba, Albanese, Putyatin, Carbonell, Schmitz, Dahlberg, Thompson, Polini, Kukovski and Tonteri is your top 10 at the moment. 5 laps to go, including this one, which is almost over, in fact. Palomba in front of Albanese. Albanese still trying to get through on Giuseppe Palomba. No word yet of whether there is going to be some kind of penalty handed to Albanese. We won't find out until after the race. So you'll know pretty much the same time I do. As the drivers continue on their battle. Palomba, Albanese, Putyatin. That's the top 3 at the moment. These last heats are always very exciting indeed because you've got this handful of drivers. And this is going to be an absolutely exceptional run. But the competitors are running well. So what are we going to see from these guys as the battle continues in the final 4 laps? Palomba, Albanese, Putyatin, Carbonell, Schmitz and Dahlberg, who has now made the move on Harry Thompson. So Dahlberg's been chipping away at things very neatly here in the last few laps. to close up on Thompson. Well, we are going to have an absolutely exceptional run. So Palomba in front of Albanese and Putyartin. Carbonell in fourth and Schmitz in fifth ahead of Dahlberg, Thompson and Polini. Well, this is not going to be an easy race for Palomba to hang on to, the way that Albanese is still giving him plenty of attack. And with 2.5 laps left, Albanese can easily slice up the inside of Palomba when he gets close enough. But he'll want to time it right, because if he times it wrong, then both of them are going to end up being spat out to the scenery, and it's going to ruin any chance they will have of a decent grid slot for the final. And now that Albanese is under investigation as well, that's got to be in the back of his mind a little bit as to whether he goes for the big move on Palomba. I guess he's got to. He's got to try and make the move past, because he's got to try and exacerbate any penalty he might get. Here he goes on the inside. Oh, so close. Albanese backs out of it at the last possible second. Dear, oh dear. That was a heart-stopping moment for Dino Chiesa and the Car Republic Motorsport team. That was a brave effort from Danilo Albanese, but it was not going to happen, and he realised it at the final possible moment. Looks like we got problems on the main straight as well for Antonio Garay, the Spanish driver. Has got some problems now, so he's going to come into the pits to retire as we go into the final lap. And I think that defensive move from Palomba, oh, goodness me, looks like there's a kart that's come off on this main straight, and the marshal able to get across in just the nick of time, really. But I think Palomba, with that defensive move, has held Danilo Albanese at bay. So a very interesting moment then, of course, for the competitors as they run together in close proximity. But the racing is going to be close in the final with the way that Palomba is pushing. He may be able to get a pole position out of this race. So let's see how Palomba's tally will accrue after all of the races are completed. But it's a great run for Giuseppe Palomba. He comes out of the final turn and he hangs on for the win. And it's a very important one with only one KZ2 race to run. A brilliant job from Palomba. Albanese in second and Putyartin in third. From Carbonell, Schmitz, Dahlberg, Thompson and Polini. But Simone Cunati is now going to have a real challenge for that front of the grid from Giuseppe Palomba. Both with the same equipment in two different squads, of course. The Birolart factory team for Giuseppe Palomba and the Modena ASD satellite squad for Cunati. But a thrilling battle and an incredible tussle is on the way in the International KZ2 Super Cup final later. Giuseppe Palomba wins his final heat from Danilo Albanese and Slavik Putyartin. Artur Carbonell and Alexander Schmitz. From Alex Dahlberg and Harry Thompson. Giacomo Polini and Matti Kukowski. Paolo Tonteri completes the top 10 ahead of Sebastian Bellucin and Brandon Nielsen. Then in 13th is Kasper Kalasma from Filippo Berto and Giuseppe Fusco. Gilles Stadsparder and Craig Tanich from Roberto Cesari and Lawrence Van Hoopen. Robin Glerum and Andreas Falk, Andrea Ceresoli and Jesper Sjoberg. Then Yannick Julius Bernhardt, the German for SRP Racing. 25th is Nicola Rossini from Noam Abramczyk, Thomas Mischik and Karl Lugashevsky. Then Antonio Garay is the first of the retirements from Jacob Talas, David Levinsky, Chris Zani and David Trevelov, who retired on the opening tour. And it's been a bitter weekend for the man who was third in the European Championship. He will now not make the final, rather sadly. Let's go back over some of the highlights from that heat.